This is a study that was sponsored by the pharmaceutical company Pharmacyclics, and in follow-up to the FDA approval of Ibrutinib for the treatment of non-therapy naive chronic cGvHD, and then asking the question in this randomized 180 patient placebo-controlled blinded study: would Ibrutinib plus corticosteroids dosed of 1 milligram per kilogram of prednisone be superior to prednisone alone? This is an international study, 31 sites, many investigators, and it was my privilege to lead this. The expectation of patients who enrolled eligibility required moderate or severe chronic cGvHD by the NIH 2014 consensus criteria. And then the goal was to start patients on the standard 420 milligrams of Ibrutinib in combination with, as I said, 1 milligram per kilogram of prednisone dosing. And there was a recommended way to taper the prednisone over the 6-month period. And patients were then monitored for event-free and overall survivals, durability of responses, quality of life, and ability to get off all immune suppression. The primary endpoint for the study was the ability to have chronic cGvHD response benefits at 12 months after initiation of the study in comparison to the placebo arm. And it's important to make it very clear that the overall ability to get off of to have this response rate was 41% in the patients who had the Ibrutinib and 37% in the patients with placebo. So there was no difference, no statistical difference in the primary endpoint, that is response rate at 48 weeks. The patients were followed for a minimum of 2 years, median duration of 2.5 years, and the blind was maintained. What was observed over the next 2 years were no increased risks or side effects or toxicities in the patients receiving the Ibrutinib compared to the placebo arm. I'll say that again: no increased risks of infections, toxicities, arrhythmias, cardiac deaths, or other concerns or fungal deaths in the patients receiving the Ibrutinib. This is very reassuring when you consider that there has been much discussion about whether the drug is not well tolerated. And nothing like a placebo-controlled study makes it more clear the benefits to a patient and the absence of toxicities when using the therapeutic arm. The second issue was that there were benefits to the patients. Again, I'm going to highlight the event-free survival as being one of the more exciting ways to consider this. And event-free survival is death, malignancy from relapse, chronic cGvHD progression, or the initiation of subsequent therapies. And in the study, the median Ibrutinib arm was 14.98 comparison to 8.25 for the median event-free survival. And that was approaching statistical significance with a nominal p-value of 0.96. Likewise, there were benefits showing ability to get off of the immune suppressions themselves, and there were benefits in duration of response. There were benefits in patients with improved quality of life by the Stephanie Lee scale. So all of these analyses together do not change what is a negative study. The primary endpoint of 12-month duration, overall response rates of chronic cGvHD benefit was no different in the placebo versus prednisone arm. But I find it fairly comforting and reassuring that these trends observed in the important clinical endpoints, along with the unexpected safety concerns, suggest that Ibrutinib is something that I will continue to consider for my patients with chronic cGvHD, not only in those patients who have relapsed chronic cGvHD in second-line therapy, but also early as possible to help manage them.